Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Education USA Saturday webinars in India. Thank you for joining us. Today's session is on how the liberal arts and sciences will prepare you for 21st century careers. Before I introduce today's speaker, I'd like to share some information about who we are and what we do. Education USA is a US Department of State supported body, and our mandate is to provide accurate, current, and comprehensive information to students who are looking to pursue higher studies in the US. We have 7 advising centers in India and over 400 worldwide. For more information, please visit educationusa.state.gov. In our efforts to reach more students, we conduct virtual information sessions twice a month on Saturday at 10 a.m. We invite you and your friends to join us for these sessions where you can learn more about the different aspects of higher studies in the US. At this point, I'm going to ask participants to type into the chat box if you have any technical issues, and I will respond in the chat box and try to help you deal with them. At the end of the session, we will have time for questions and answers, so I request that you keep your questions till the end. For today's session, our speaker is Anna McCullough, Assistant Director of International and Transfer Recruitment at Baker University. Anna, hello and welcome to the Saturday webinar, and thank you so much for taking the time, especially so late at night, to present the session. We are ready to begin. The floor is all yours.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much, Deborah. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's joining me this morning. I'm thrilled to be able to talk to you about the liberal arts and 21st century careers. I represent a small liberal arts college in the state of Kansas. So this is kind of our niche, as it were. And I'll talk to you first a little bit about what the liberal arts is. We'll talk about the definition of the liberal arts, and then we'll talk a little bit about what that kind of an education means for career preparation, and then we'll look at some data about where the liberal arts can kind of take you in terms of career trajectories. So first of all, the liberal arts itself is a very old concept of education. The liberal arts was kind of created as an idea by the ancient Greeks. And it was meant to be a program of education that was going to foster citizens' participation in public life. Very literally, the liberal arts means the art of being a free man. So it was meant to train individuals, to train young men especially, in becoming good citizens and becoming good speakers, good participants in everyday public life. The areas of the liberal arts originally covered things that these ancient Greeks would need to be good citizens in public life. So that includes grammar, logic, and rhetoric, because you need to be able to persuade people of your arguments. But that also includes arithmetic and geometry, music, and astronomy. So these were kind of the classic areas for the liberal arts. That concept of education kind of continued through the ancient Romans into the Middle Ages, into the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. This kind of concept, classical Greek concept of the liberal arts, is kind of what continued to inform the structure of universities and the program of study for students. And that's kind of continued even through to the modern day. US colleges and universities have continued this focus in the liberal arts traditionally. Oftentimes at larger universities, like big public universities in the United States, the core of the liberal arts is usually in the College of Arts and Sciences. So that would include areas of study like the humanities, so history, English, fine arts, those kinds of things. But that also includes mathematics, natural sciences, and social sciences. So that is why biology, for example, might be in the same college as English or art, for example. So small liberal arts colleges like mine kind of continue their focus in these areas. They offer arts and sciences, natural sciences, et cetera, but they don't always offer professional fields like business or engineering, okay? Some do, like we, for example, do have business, but not every college is going to be able to do this. So that's kind of what we mean when we say a liberal arts college. So there's a lot of misconceptions and myths out there about the liberal arts. I think the most common myth about the liberal arts is that you can't get a job with a liberal arts degree, or that the kind of jobs you could get if you graduate from a liberal arts degree are going to be more unskilled jobs, or, jobs that don't pay very well, that kind of thing, right? This is a very common stereotype that I run into a lot with folks. Kind of more broadly, politically speaking, right now, there's kind of a tension between a broad liberal arts training and a more vocational professional approach. So what do I mean by this? When politicians or when parents or other parties are arguing about what is the purpose of education, the liberal arts approach is to give as broad a training, so that students are prepared for not only a particular job, but they would also be prepared for, as the ancient Greeks thought, the ability to be a good citizen, right? But increasingly, universities are being pressured, to provide job preparation as the primary or the only purpose of higher education. So the liberal arts, and the philosophy behind this type of education kind of pushes back against that. Another myth is that liberal arts is often equated with the humanities. These terms are often used interchangeably. A lot of times a newspaper or someone talking about the liberal arts, what they really mean is the humanities, right? When they're talking about art or history or English or other degrees that don't obviously give direct job preparation. And, a lot of these stereotypes I run into a lot, and, let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into what exactly you would want to do a liberal degree, and then we'll kind of look at the data of why these stereotypes aren't true. So why would you want to do a more broad-based liberal arts degree? Why would you want to have to take classes in humanities and social science and natural science if you're getting a degree in, say, computer science? Well, for one thing, getting a broader liberal arts degree is better career preparation. 21st century careers demand a variety of skills. They don't just demand, special knowledge in one particular area and that's it, right? Technology has changed this in many ways, but a globalized world has changed it in others. Also, students aren't going to have just one career, right? I'm on career number 2. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. In 10 years, I might be on career number 3. So a broader training, if you have classes in other areas besides just your major, that means greater flexibility on the job market, right? Because you have other skills to offer other than just classes in one particular area. But getting a broader liberal arts degree can also give you a deeper perspective on one particular field, especially a field that that you might want to do or work in for your entire life, right? So learning about the history of science, for example, can give you a deeper understanding of your biology degree or your chemistry degree or your engineering degree, right? So, in these kinds of ways, you can get, a broader based, more detailed career preparation because, careers 20 years from now, they're going to be career paths that haven't even been created yet. You don't know what those careers might be. We don't know what those trends might be. And so you want to have a broad-based skill set so that you can be prepared for that. Another reason to do a liberal arts degree is maybe just a sense of personal satisfaction. Maybe you have 2 or 3 very strong interests, right? A very common double major in the United States, for example, is a student who's majoring in both mathematics and music. There's quite a bit of mathematics in music, in writing music and the timing and so on. And so, you know, I see a lot of students who really love to make music, but maybe that's not what they want to do for a career, but they want to continue that type of study, you know, in college. So getting a broader liberal arts degree will let you do that, okay? So in general, what we mean when we talk about better career preparation, there's kind of 2 different types of skill sets that a university education or a liberal education can give you, okay? When we talk about job preparation, we often talk about hard skills, right? These would be like the technical or specific skills that allows you to do a particular job. So for example, this would be like software engineering, if you're an IT person, or it would be, you know, more technical skills like, you know, mastering different computer programs if you're in finance, things like that, okay? But kind of on the other side of hard skills is soft skills. Soft skills are the things that are a little bit harder to pin down, right? Soft skills a lot of times includes communication skills, right? The ability to work on teams, the ability to manage people, right? The ability to lead. So all of those things, leadership, management, communications, these are what we call soft skills, okay? And to be successful in 21st century careers, you're going to need to have both. So some examples of double majors I have seen that, that provide training in both of these areas include English and engineering, right? So even engineers have to write reports. They have to give presentations about their work. They have to work on teams, right? English, majoring in English or minoring in English, getting more classes in that rhetoric and composition, that's going to help you out with those type of soft skills that will allow you to perhaps be promoted at your engineering firm. Philosophy and pre-medicine is another great combination, for example, because doctors, it's not just all surgery or lab work, right? Doctors have to talk to patients. They have to be able to connect with a patient, to understand what the patient's issues are, what they're feeling, but they also have to be able to deal with certain ethical situations or different moral dilemmas, right? So philosophy as a double major or a minor with pre-medicine is a great option because it gives you those communication skills, it gives you some of those rhetoric skills, but it also gives you some of that ability to navigate ethical problems that come up all the time in medicine. Political science and biology. What do these have in common? Well, it depends on what type of career you want to do, right? Right now, especially with climate change or with, you know, government policies, a lot of that is driving scientific research. A lot of that is driving government funding for research, government policies in response to current environmental issues, right? So having political science as well as biology will help you to both navigate the political side of things, but it can also help you have the tech skills to be able to, or the science skills, the science knowledge to be able to explain these issues to others, okay? Art and chemistry. I don't know if anyone here in the webinar is interested in history or historic preservation of art or architecture or other areas. But one of the, if you are interested in things like historic preservation, of your country's heritage, or, buildings, paintings, things like that, a double major in art and chemistry is kind of the ideal combination, because you get both the knowledge of art, art history, but you also get the knowledge of chemistry to understand how to be able to stop those things from deteriorating, how to stop the chemical reactions in paint from deteriorating. So I've seen some students do a double major in art and chemistry to kind of give both the hard skills and the soft skills. Okay. There's a lot of other examples of these types of things, and I'll talk a few more about a few more of those when we get into the data. Let's talk a little bit about, okay, it's great, to hear that maybe I should double major in these things, or maybe I should consider going to a liberal arts college and doing a minor in, political science along with my biology degree. But where does that get me in terms of careers? So here's some statistics for you. When we look at medicine, for example, the MCAT, which is the Medical College Admissions Test in the United States for entry into medical schools, majors in humanities, physics, or mathematics outperform, they do better than biological sciences majors in every category on the MCAT. Why? Because they're good at problem solving, because they're good at communications, because they're good at logic, thinking through different problems. And that's not necessarily training that always happens in biological sciences. Very similarly, if you're thinking about a law career, physics or mathematics or humanities majors are the top 10 performers on the law school admissions test in the United States, okay? So, you're kind of sensing a theme here, that the people who are being asked to think critically, to do detailed problem solving, these are the folks who do well on entry into medical school or law school. Some 2017 data from the government, from the Department of Education, shows that business majors have the same unemployment rates after graduation as English majors or communications or political science majors. Now, we're talking pretty low rates, right? Around 3.4%. But, I think the perception is that majoring in business will give you an automatic career after you're done, after you've graduated. And that's not actually necessarily the case. English majors, communications majors, political science majors, they get jobs at the same rates as business majors do after they graduate. The majors, interestingly, that have the lowest unemployment rates, according to that study, would be education. We always need more teachers, nursing, accounting, and marketing. So having some specific skills and not just a general business degree seem to be a little bit more valuable. Humanities majors in the United States are also the most likely graduates to go on and get masters or doctorates. And of those who go on to get advanced degrees, only 3.4% are unemployed. And if you remember the myth that we talked about, that salaries are lower for liberal arts degrees, well, somewhat, in some cases that's true, maybe because teachers don't get paid as much as engineers, and humanities majors or some liberal arts majors go into the field of education at higher rates than engineers do. But interestingly, over time, the average salary rises for humanities majors, and the gap narrows quite a bit. So, if you've constantly heard that liberal arts programs will mean a low salary for life, that's not necessarily true. Another thing to understand with the liberal arts approach is that the title of the major that you study in college isn't necessarily going to be the title of your career. Here's a couple of graphs that show, for example, the careers that history majors go into after they graduate. And you can see that almost 35% go into, 40% go into business, right? Different areas in business. Maybe that's management, maybe that's sales, maybe that's office, maybe that's business operations. But the history majors also go into education. They go into law. They go into entertainment, sports media. You'll find history majors anywhere, for example. Humanities majors in general are kind of similar. You can see that a lot of them also go into business careers. Some go into computer study, a lot go into education, management, and other types of areas too, okay? What about science majors, right? Because remember that the natural sciences like life science and physical science, remember that these sciences are also considered part of the liberal arts traditionally. Even if you're majoring in something like physics, it's really important to understand that your career may not be physicist, right? The title of major isn't necessarily the title of your career. So here from, as you can see from this graph, nearly a quarter of physics majors who graduate with their bachelor's degree go into areas that don't have anything to do with the STEM fields, right? Maybe they solve technical problems, maybe they don't, but they've ended up in fields other than, maybe what they've strictly trained for. So even the science majors are pretty flexible in terms of where they go, right? Partially because they've had some of this other training in the liberal arts. And finally, kind of as a last bit, if we look at some of the common career trajectories for liberal arts graduates, especially those who come out of like social sciences, which would include things like psychology, which would include things like sociology, you can see that there's kind of a variety of areas that they go into. But then their second and third jobs, quite a few of them are ending up in sort of management types of positions. A lot of them end up in marketing or advertising, journalism, writing, and communications. There's kind of a wide variety of careers. And this kind of underscores what I said before about the 21st century. You won't just have one career. Maybe you start out in sales. Maybe you then go to office work. Maybe you then go to business analysis. Who knows, right? This is kind of part of the exciting part about liberal arts degrees. So just kind of using my own career as kind of a case study for this, this might help you kind of understand a little bit more about what it is that the liberal arts can offer in terms of careers. So I graduated from Baker University with a bachelor's in history, and I had 3 minors. I had political science, English, and philosophy. I went on to get my doctorate, my PhD in Latin and Roman history. And yes, my mother was terrified that I would never find a job. But I went on to do not just teaching, but a lot of different things. So I got my teaching English as a foreign language certification. I taught English for a while in Egypt and in the United Arab Emirates. I then went on to become an assistant professor at the Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. I taught Latin and Roman history there for 7 years. But being a full-time professor wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so that's when I made the change over to admissions and recruitment. I became an international student recruiter at Kansas State University, and that transitioned into my assistant director job that I hold at the moment. And so, like I said, admissions and recruitment is kind of my second career after being, a Latin scholar. If you count the English, it's maybe my third career. And in maybe 10 years, 5 years, maybe I'll have yet another career. I'm kind of excited by that uncertainty. I'm kind of excited by that ambiguity, partially because I know that along the way I've developed a lot of the skills that I need, in order to meet whatever challenge is going to come up, right? And what are some of those skills? So this is a combination of skills that I learned through my liberal arts degree, but also a combination of skills that I learned, during on the job during my different careers. So communications, definitely. In my liberal arts degree, I had to learn to write. I gave a lot of presentations, public speaking, right? My liberal arts degree really helped me develop communications and the ability to communicate in different areas. Research and analysis, absolutely. Yes, maybe my doctorate is in Latin and Roman history, but the research skills that gave me, are tremendous. So I can write a 40-page report if that's what my director wants. If she needs a presentation in 2 days on a specific topic, I know exactly how to start the research. I know what I'm looking for. I know how to present an analysis and create an analysis. Project management. The liberal arts degree helped me develop this, but writing and publishing articles while I was a professor, and then later on managing my recruitment, activities. This has been huge. Marketing and sales. This is a lot of what admissions is. I am marketing my university to students. And through different ways. So I have to think about things like branding. I have to think about things like social media profiles and things like this, right? I also have to think about cultural competency. And this is really something that the liberal arts excels at. Because you're taking classes in different areas, you're learning a lot about different perspectives on people. Right? So even if your major is, say, computer engineering, if you get your minor in psychology, you at least understand a little bit about the people who are going to be using the programs or the hardware that you're designing, okay? That gives you a deeper understanding of what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. I've also developed different software proficiencies in Excel, different CRM programs. This is a key business skill, social media proficiency, and I look forward to the new skills that I'm going to have, that I'm continuing to develop in my current position, right? So there's kind of a mix of skills. My liberal arts degree kind of, gave me the flexibility to be able to go into these different careers. It gave me the flexibility and the language to be able to talk about what I do to very different audiences. So finally, I think this poster from the University of Utah really sums up a lot about what the liberal arts can do, right? The liberal arts can give you the science education to help you clone a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Your humanities classes at your liberal arts program, however, can tell you why it's going to be a bad idea to do that, right? And that's kind of the beauty of the liberal arts. It gives you both sides of these issues that are going to be even more critical in the 21st century. I've included some resources and links here, which I would be more than happy to distribute afterwards to anyone who would like. My contact information is here, but at this time, I would like to take any questions possible. So it looks like the first question is, what combinations are popular with psychology? That's a great question. Psychology goes well with a lot of different majors or other types of areas. So I mentioned computer engineering, for example. So if you're designing programming, if you're designing software, if you're designing new computer products, you need to be able to understand your audience. You need to be able to understand what they're looking for in a product, what they need a software to do, and psychology can help with that. Psychology also is a popular combination for people who are going into law school. Or medical school. It's a great option to have with business too, right? No matter what area of business you're going into, you know, if you're going to be a manager, you need to be able to have a good understanding of your employees. You need to be able to understand how to interact with them in different ways, right? So psychology is a really flexible major. That's one of the social sciences that can go in all of those different career trajectories that I talked about a little bit earlier. Okay. Next one, what subject combinations do you recommend to become a political analyst? I think my question to that is, it kind of depends on what you want to analyze? Are you talking about analyzing political systems, or are you talking about being like working within government and analyzing different topics for the government? So there's a couple of different things you can do there. So I know that in a lot of different countries, having a science background, having a technical background, having an engineering background is greatly desirable in government work because you know, that can definitely help with policy formation, policy analysis, and things like that. If you're looking to do actual work with like polling strategies, with the actual mechanics of politics themselves, then the best major to do with that, like if you're looking to do poll strategies, political science would be the core one, and psychology would be a great major to do along with that. Or like a statistics major, if you can kind of combine those. There's a lot of statistics courses that are required as part of a political science major anyway, but if you want more of the data analytics side, things like that, then looking at a mathematics or statistics major to go along, or minor to go along with political science would be a great combination as well. Other questions? You're very welcome.
Anna, I'd like to ask a question on the more practical side.
Yes.
In terms of, you know, so it sounds like a liberal arts, setup is a great place to explore, to be able to go in undecided and figure out what you want to do as well. And what are the opportunities within a university setup to do that, to maybe try out a subject, or like how do you explore, how does the structure of the program enable you to explore something if you're undecided and then figure out what you want to do?
Sure, absolutely. That's a great question. So, if going back to the college, kind of the idea of the College of Arts and Sciences in U.S. universities, U.S. universities have what we call general education requirements. And these are requirements that every student has to take no matter their major. So whether you're in biology or whether you're in history or whether you're in engineering or business, everyone has to take a certain number of humanities classes and science classes and social science classes, things like that. So one that kind of forces you to take classes just outside of your intended major, and maybe you'll find something there that you're really interested in, or something that sheds new light on your major, part of your major, so that maybe it affects what you want to do for your career, things like that. So if you come to the US to do a bachelor's degree, you're not just taking classes inside your major. So that's kind of, however much, the politicians say that education should be, just for job preparation. The fact that we have these general education requirements kind of continues that liberal arts philosophy, even if your college is not a small liberal arts college like mine. So public universities, big, small universities, everybody is going to have to take these general education requirements. Another way that's really a kind of a good way to explore is, students don't have to declare a major when they start at university. In fact, at my previous university, at Kansas State University, around 20 to 25% of new students each year started as what we call undecided or undeclared. At K-State, we called it open option, things like that. And so, when students start college as undecided, they're taking all of those general education requirements, right? They're taking the courses in these different areas that would be required for the degree, but they're exploring a little bit more of different areas, or taking courses that maybe they thought they would never, they would never end up in. And so it's a great way for students to get exposure to a lot of different fields, to a lot of different perspectives. And I think that that's kind of part of how the liberal arts approach, even if you're not at a small liberal arts college like mine, that liberal arts approach is still kind of the heart of the US education through these general education requirements. Okay. It looks like we have another question. The question is, which subject would go well with economics? Economics itself is a really great flexible major. Economics, requires a lot of statistics and math as well, not just kind of like political science does. So if you're looking to go into business or different areas like finance or things like that, economics is a great degree, for any kind of careers in those areas. So management, et cetera. It kind of depends on what your other interest is. So economics and political science, if you're interested in thinking about or getting involved in the public sector, then a political science degree is great. If you're wanting to think about issues like, how do people participate in an economy, then psychology is a great option with economics. If you're interested in other types of issues, there's a lot of great options that go with economics. If you're wanting to do English with economics, that gives you a lot of the communication skills as well as the data analysis skills that would make you a pretty valuable person in the business world, for example. So there's kind of a range of things that economics goes with. Okay, next question. My daughter is interested in applied mathematics as a major. Would you like to suggest any other major or minors in liberal arts along with it? So good question. Mathematics is pretty flexible. I mean, you can take mathematics in a lot of different directions. Again, it kind of depends maybe on what types of careers she would be interested in afterwards. So, or what passions she has currently. So mathematics and music, I talked about a little bit earlier in the presentation. Mathematics and English would give both of those things, mathematics and history. Mathematics and sociology, or psychology. You know, mathematics is one of those majors that you know, it is a liberal art itself, and kind of prepares for a whole range of different careers. Not a lot of mathematics graduates, you know, become mathematicians, for example. You know, mathematics is a much broader field than that. So I would say, you know, what other kinds of interests are is your daughter really passionate about? You know, that's kind of what the heart of the liberal arts is. It kind of gives breadth, but also depth to some of these areas. What subjects to study for travel journalism? Good question. Very good question. So one of the skills that I mentioned is very important for 21st century careers is cultural competency. And if you want to be a travel journalist, then cultural competency is going to be very important. So international studies is a great major. That's kind of usually an interdisciplinary major at US universities, meaning that it combines elements of different majors together. You also will definitely want something in mass media or communications. Some schools have specific journalism majors, but others have something that's more of like a mass media. Because a lot of travel journalism gets started, for example, through blogging, or through social media, Instagram, you know, Insta stories, things like that. So these are options to look at as well. If you're going to be doing a travel journalism, you know, journalists, you might be doing a lot of freelancing. So getting some kind of a business or entrepreneurship degree along with your communications or English degree, that would be a great combination. So travel journalism, there's kind of a few different things that you could take to kind of help prepare you for that. Other questions?
All right, I think that seems to be the end of our questions for now. So I'd just like to thank you, Anna, for a wonderfully researched and analytical presentation. That was an excellent insight into exactly what kind of career pathways and trajectories, you know, are possible for us, and really sparked, I think, a lot of interest and opened our eyes to the kind of creative possibilities that are available in the liberal arts and sciences structure of education. So thank you so much for that. And for participants, thank you for joining us. Anna's email address is on the slide if you'd like to get in touch with inquiries about the subject or about Baker University. And I'm also available. My email address will be on the webinar emails that you will have received. So you're very welcome to get in touch with us for further questions. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and good night, Anna.
Thank you so much for having me again.